One of the most important consequential archaeological discoveries of all time, the Dead Sea Scrolls, might be older than we initially thought.
For almost 2,000 years, the Dead Sea Scrolls stayed hidden in dark caves by the Dead Sea, untouched and full of mystery. These very old manuscripts, some older than any other known copies of biblical writings, have amazed scholars and believers alike. Now, new X-ray scanning technology is revealing secrets that could not be seen before, showing hidden writing, extra texts, and new details about the lives and beliefs of the Essenes. What these scans are uncovering might change long-held ideas about biblical history and how Scripture developed. Could our view of the Bible change forever? Join us in this video as we discuss the details. The X-ray scan revelation about the Dead Sea Scrolls. One of the most important findings of the past century is the finding of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Historians, Bible scholars, and scientists from all around the world are still drawn to these old texts. The majority of the scrolls were written in Hebrew, but there were also some passages in Greek and Aramaic, the language that many people think Jesus spoke. One different scroll was made of copper instead of parchment, and they were all written in carbon-based ink. The scrolls, which were found in the late 40s, have helped people learn more about Jewish history, the Bible, and the mysterious Essenes. The question of who wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls has caused debate among experts for decades. The scrolls were found in caves near Qumran, close to the Dead Sea. Some scholars think they show the larger culture of Second Temple Judaism, while others believe they were made by a small and strict Jewish sect that lived apart from society. Most Bible scholars agree with the second idea and say the scrolls were written by a group called the Dead Sea Sect, who are believed to be the Essenes. The Essenes were described by ancient writers like Josephus Flavius, Philo of Alexandria, and Pliny the Elder, but they were not mentioned in the New Testament. According to these sources, the Essenes left Jerusalem because they were unhappy with how the temple was being managed. They moved to the Judean desert and built a small, well-behaved society that totally listens to the Torah. They put first spiritual purity, led simple lives, and followed strict rules. Not everyone, meanwhile, believes that the scrolls were written by the Essenes. According to a different version, they were written by priests from the Second Temple in Jerusalem and then hidden in Qumran to keep the Romans out. According to this theory, the Dead Sea Sect did not actually write the scrolls. Rather, they were just guardians of them. But this does not fit well with the strong criticism of the Jerusalem priests found in some of the scrolls. Although the first group of scrolls found in Cave 1 was published between 1950 and 1956, many others took a long time to be released. This delay led to conspiracy theories. In June 2020, a team of researchers from Israel, Sweden, and the United States made a new discovery using genetic testing on the parchment of the scrolls. Their research, which was published in the journal Cell, shows that not every scroll started in Qumran. A few were made of cowhide, while most were made of sheepskin. These cowhide scrolls most likely started in other places, either Jerusalem or close-by places, since it is nearly hard to raise cows in the desert. This shows that a lot of Jewish communities, not just one, shared the scrolls and the idea inside it. Parts of the book of Jeremiah were among the most important findings. Scientists discovered that one piece was written on cowhide and two on sheepskin, proving they were from different scrolls and different regions. These fragments also showed two different versions of the same book. According to Professor Noam Mizrahi of Tel Aviv University, this shows that Jewish communities at that time accepted more than one version of sacred texts. People in the Second Temple era were more accepting of differences in sacred texts than later Jews and Christians, who were more interested with exact wording. The latest theory that the Dead Sea Scrolls came from a lot of sources throughout Judea is supported by this discovery. They were not the creation of one tiny group, but reflected the many views and customs of Jewish life. At the period, another finding involved the Songs of the Sabbath Sacrifice, a series of religious hymns. DNA research shows that these writings were not meant for one culture because they were widely used outside of Qumran. The same study found a genetic link between parchment from Qumran and scrolls written in the rare handwriting style of the Essenes, proving that some writings were indeed penned by the local scribes. Other scrolls found in the same caverns, however, came from different places. In general, these investigations have changed the way experts explain the Dead Sea Scrolls. They now appear to be a collection of writings from many Jewish groups, showing the wide range of spiritual thought in ancient Judea. The findings prove that the scrolls are more than relics of one sect. They are a window into a rich, diverse world of faith that helped shape both Judaism and Christianity as we know them today. If ancient words could speak again through the power of modern machines, what hidden truths might they reveal about the world, faith, and the people who first wrote them down? Let's find out. The silent codes of the Dead Sea Scrolls. One of the biggest collections of ancient literature ever found is the Dead Sea Scrolls. These weak manuscripts, written in Greek, Aramaic, and Hebrew thousands of years ago, have been studied for decades by experts. Sacred laws, songs, predictions, and accounts of spiritual visions are all added in the scrolls. Many of them are burnt, faded, or spoilt with age, making them very hard to read or fully understand. The question of who wrote them and why they were written has always shocked academics the most. In recent years, however, technology has changed how academics see the Dead Sea Scrolls. One of the most creative technologies is quantum AI, a system that uses quantum computing and artificial intelligence to check old literature in former hard ways. Quantum AI can see invisible ink, rebuild missing words, and show hidden links inside the writing, in contrast to former ways that relied on human interpretation. Also, it can check whole manuscripts in a matter of seconds, a task that formerly needed years of manual labor. Researchers can now see features that were previously hidden thanks to quantum AI. It showed that some pieces were far older than experts had thought. Surprising links between scrolls that were formerly believed to be unrelated were also found. These findings have expanded the enigma and changed what researchers believe to be true about the time and message of the scrolls. The development of a specialized AI system called Enoch was a serious upgrade. To check when a scroll was written, this classy program can look at handwriting, ink texture, and even a scribe's hand movement. Compared to earlier ways like paleography, which checked writing styles visually, its date accuracy is within 30 years. Scientists used Enoch to find that the Hasmonean and Herodian writing traditions did not follow one another in history, as formerly thought. Rather, they coexisted together. This finding shows that ancient Jewish scribes always joined tradition and creativity in their religious work, keeping old patterns even while new ones came out. What Enoch showed regarding the age of some scrolls was even more shocking. Some writings, like Ecclesiastes and Daniel, might have been created while the authors were still alive. If this is correct, then these versions might be the original texts instead of copycats. That theory casts doubt on long-held reason regarding the time of various biblical passages. The degree to which the scrolls are linked to the early origins of biblical history is likewise called into question. When quantum AI found strange number patterns in several scrolls, it gave yet another surprising outcome. Prime numbers and binary-like codes that copy today digital encryption were among the mathematical rules that these patterns listened to. According to some experts, these number systems might have been on purpose and served as a kind of secret code to protect sacred knowledge. Some think the similarity might just be a coincidence, but experts are amazed by similarities between these old texts and new encryption techniques. Also, the pattern showed cosmological and astronomical hints hidden in the scrolls. Ancient Chinese star maps dating back more than 2,000 years were matched by certain symbols and patterns. This finding raises the chances that the scrolls' creators described the heavens using celestial or spiritual codes. These writings may include encoded knowledge about the world, time, and spiritual belief systems that finally controlled Jewish mysticism, Kabbalah, and early Gnostic traditions, according to a lot of books. The scientific and religious worlds have been divided over these findings. Some leaders have said that such knowledge ought to be kept hidden out of fear and worry, that it would challenge long-held beliefs about Scripture. Others say the unexpected findings is proof that the old writings have deeper importance than previously thought. The The scholarly community has been shaken by the idea that some of the earliest biblical writings may now be closer to their original form. To keep and study the scrolls, new books still use cutting-edge technologies like multispectral photography and machine learning. However, while quantum AI opens up new ideas, it also poses challenging issues. Are there secrets that humanity should never fully open? Or should technology be allowed to read sacred text? For now, researchers agree on one thing. This is only the beginning. The Dead Sea Scrolls still hold secrets waiting to be opened. And with the help of new technology, the line between history, faith, and science grows ever thinner. Could the old texts hidden for years hold secrets that modern technology is only now starting to reveal? Stay tuned for more details. Unveiling the Dead Sea Scrolls, Mysteries from the Cave of Horror. In 2021, a team of archaeologists took on a dangerous mission to explore a cave in the Judean desert that had been sealed for 60 years. Known as the Cave of Horror, or Cave 8, this steep and isolated location required researchers to rappel down an 80-meter drop just to enter. The conditions inside were harsh. Dim light, thick layers of dust, and a dry, sheltered environment that preserved whatever had been hidden there for centuries. What the team found were tiny fragments of ancient text, along with other artifacts, offering a rare glimpse into human history. Among the finds were about 80 fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls, including parts of the so-called Scroll of the 12, also known as the Minor Prophet's Scroll. Unlike most scrolls from the region, these were written in Greek. This unusual choice of language suggested that the communities who used these scrolls had their own ways of preserving and interpreting scripture. The content of the fragments included passages from books such as Nahum and Zechariah, offering guidance on moral behavior, divine judgment, and community rebuilding. Even small fragments revealed much about how ancient texts were read, shared, and valued by those who preserved them. The cave also held human and cultural history beyond the scrolls. Near the entrance, the team uncovered the mummified remains of a child estimated to be between 6 and 12 years old. The body had been carefully placed in a fetal position, wrapped in cloth, with feet exposed and hands holding additional fabric tests dated the remains to around 6,000 years ago. A big woven basket that was very intact despite its age was found by researchers further inside the cave. The pre-pottery Neolithic B period, when ceramics were not common, is where this basket, which dates to over 9,000 years ago, came from. As people moved from hunting and gathering to early farming, the basket showed how they set up their communities and stored food. Showing early creative thinking, researchers used new technology to completely understand the scroll fragments. In order to scan and check the weak parts, artificial intelligence was needed. I was able to recreate faded characters and detect handwriting patterns thanks to optical character recognition algorithms that were trained on ancient writings, while multispectral imaging showed letters that were invisible to the human eye. By checking ink, paper texture, and fragment layout, deep learning algorithms were able to open up minute characteristics about the scribes themselves. Tremors in the strokes, uneven lines, and differences in ink pressure showed personal stories behind each hand that wrote the text, hinting that these writings were made under real and steady harsh conditions. Analysis of the fragments provides insight into the scribes and the groups they belong to. Corrections and re-inked lines show intentionally tries to preserve scripture as multiple hands worked on the passages. These pieces, which were found in a lot of caverns throughout the Judean desert, point to a coordinated preservation system as opposed to the efforts of a single remote sect. It is now thought by scholars that at times of crisis, like the destruction of the Second Temple, people from Jerusalem, the Galilee, and the surrounding areas worked together to save these sacred books. To keep them for future generations, scrolls were carefully copied, buried next to the dead, or hidden in caverns. These scrolls' contents also showed differences from commonly accepted versions of the Bible. Some Greek pieces, which stand for distinct readings or interpretations, especially to these communities, did not align with the usual Septuagint. Lack of other biblical books from the collection, such Chronicles and Esther, raises worries about which writings were given more attention and why other pieces showed customs and beliefs in addition to spiritual teachings and focus on social guidance, shared duty, and communal ethics. By showing how people understood sacred texts in ways that showed their surroundings and experiences, these variations provided a deeper insight of Jewish life at this time. In general, the study of ancient writings is changing as a result of the mix of artificial intelligence and archaeology. Researchers are now able to rebuild a lost network of scribes and communities by tracing handwriting, ink composition, and fragment patterns, showing a past that had been silent for millennia. If old scrolls could survive for thousands of years, what else might be hidden in the faded, forgotten texts of history, waiting for modern technology to bring them back to life? Let's delve deeper. Unlocking the hidden words. How lost texts are being rescued. Many old manuscripts have been lost over many centuries. People always wondered what kind of information might have been written in old manuscripts. Accidents such as library fires destroyed some writings. However, many others vanished more slowly due to wear and tear, breakage, or willful erasing, so the information could not be used again. Sometimes, scribes wrote over older texts to make new ones. These layered texts, called palimpsests, were hidden under newer writing. What looked like destruction at the time has sometimes helped keep old writing, and now new technology can show these hidden works. A popular example is the Archimedes palimpsest. This is a 13th century Greek prayer book that was found in 1906 in Istanbul. Later, scholars noticed faint writing under the visible prayers. This hidden text was in Greek and had symbols and math. It turned out to be 7 treatises by Archimedes, the ancient mathematician. 2 of the treatises were completely unknown. Before this discovery, Archimedes is famous for discovering pi, laying the foundations of calculus, and inventing machines like the screw pump. This palimpsest shows how fragile knowledge can be, but also how it can survive by chance. Although the book went missing shortly after its discovery, it reappeared at a New York auction in 1998. Even in worse condition, modern imaging helped researchers read more of the text. Scientists use special techniques to read these hidden writings. One method is ultraviolet, UV fluorescence. Some inks glow under UV light, which makes them stand out from the parchment. This helped scholars see Archimedes' writing beneath the prayers. Different metals in ink, like iron, mercury, or calcium, glow differently, so researchers could separate multiple layers of text. X-ray fluorescence is another tool. When X-rays hit parchment, the ink can glow, showing text that cannot be seen with the naked eye. These methods have made it possible to recover texts that were thought lost. Europe also has examples where old manuscripts were reused. One book from the 16th century had 3 hidden texts on its back cover. The newest text matched the age of the book. Older works, such as a passage from the 12th century that quoted the 8th century scholar Bede, came under it. Historians can better understand the spread of knowledge in medieval England by opening up these hidden layers. It shows the flow of ideas over time between people and places. Similar ways have shown forgotten indigenous manuscripts in several parts of the world. During the 16th century, many old texts in Mesoamerica were destroyed by Spanish conquistadors. The Codex Unut from Oaxaca is among the few that have survived. This codex had strong pictographs showing Mixtec family history on folded leather. Researchers found proof of secret visuals in the codex in the 50s. Decades later, hyperspectral imaging made them clear. Unlike metal-based inks, these used organic pigments, which are harder to detect. Hyperspectral imaging takes hundreds of pictures across many light wavelengths. Computers then find subtle color differences invisible to human eyes. These images help historians learn about Mixtec life and traditions. New imaging technologies have changed how scholars study old text. UV and X-ray fluorescence, multispectral imaging, and hyperspectral imaging reveal information that was invisible before. They have helped recover mathematical works, biblical texts, historical accounts, and pictographs that might otherwise have been lost. Every text recovered adds to our understanding of history and culture. They show how ideas and knowledge moved across time and regions. These discoveries show that many ancient writings may still be hidden. As researchers continue using these techniques, more lost texts may be uncovered. Modern science is not only recovering old words, but also bringing back knowledge that helps us understand the past. By reading these recovered texts, historians can rebuild the libraries of old civilizations and gain insight into how humans thought, studied, and recorded their world. Could the ancient writings hidden for nearly 2,000 years really hold the key to understanding the events unfolding in our world today? Let's learn more. The Dead Sea Scrolls, unveiling the Essene prophetic timeline. In addition to being very old, the Dead Sea Scrolls held a very important information about history and science. They told a story that linked the past, present, and maybe even the future. The calendar that was used by the Essenes, a Jewish community, is among the most shocking features of these scrolls. At the time, the Essenes were very different from other Jewish communities. They gave their whole life to studying their sacred scriptures and understanding God's purpose while living apart from society in the desert. Knowing when the Messiah will come was of great importance to them. They also studied human event patterns and history. They wanted to preserve the unique and rare understanding of time and history that they felt God had given them for future generations to come. The standard Jewish calendar, which is based on the moon, was different from the Essenes' calendar. Instead, they used a solar calendar, which has 364 days in a year. Weeks were always repeating itself, and each year ended on the same day of the same week. This approach is referred to by books as the calendar of light. It served as more than just a tool to mark or celebrate holidays and days. It revealed God's purpose for history, according to the Essenes. They closely check and study it to know when important occurrences, such as the coming of the Messiah, would take place. The calendar had bigger 50-year cycles, known as Jubilees, and 7-year cycles, known as Shemitahs. Major divine events and resets in human history were thought to be marked by these cycles. The Essenes classified human history into 4 different and unique ages using their calendar. The first was the 2,000-year age of chaos, which lasted from Adam to Abraham. It was a period and time of chaos, disaster, and rebellion, showing what happens when people reject and go against God. The second was the 2,000-year age of Torah, which went through from Abraham to Jesus. God gave the law, made his covenant, and sent prophets to lead mankind during this time. Jesus started the third age, known as the Age of Grace, which is still going on strong now. It talks about the gospel's global sharing. Christ will rule on earth for over 1,000 years during the fourth age, also known as the Age of the Kingdom. The 7 days of creation are shown in the 7,000-year time frame formed by these ages taken together. A very important scroll known as 11Q Melchizedek talked about the coming of the Messiah in a year of Jubilee. It says that the Messiah would give weak people hope, comfort to people in pains, and freedom to those in prison. When Jesus started his ministry, some 100 years after this scroll was written, he read from Isaiah 61 in his local synagogue and said, "Today this scripture is fulfilled." This situation showed just how correct the Essenes' calculations and understanding of the prophecy might be. Linking the old writings to real-life events, the Essenes also held that God's view of time was followed. Psalm 90, verse 4 and 2, Peter 3, verse 8, which state that one day for God is like 1,000 human years, were cited. They separated history into epochs or days, with the 7th day saying 1,000 years of peace under Christ's rule, and the 6 days symbolizing 6,000 years of human labor, conflict, and learning. They were able to see history as organized and intentional, rather than haphazard, thanks to this idea. According to some modern scholars, the Essene calendar might hint at events happening now. Some views say that the last 50-year Jubilee cycle will begin in 2026. Christ's second coming and the beginning of the Age of the Kingdom could occur during this time. Today's events, wars, societal instability, natural calamities, moral deterioration, and deceit may follow the pattern that the Essenes outlined thousands of years ago. We can learn about their ideas on the world and its future via their careful observations and knowledge preservation. In conclusion, the Dead Sea Scrolls, which carries the Essenes' views, give a very different view about human history. The classification of history into discrete ages, their solar calendar, and the prophecy of the arrival of the Messiah all shows that history is not random, but rather listens to a divine purpose. As part of a bigger prophetic timeline, the Dead Sea Scrolls offer a framework for understanding former occurrences, new situations, and maybe future happenings. Scholars and believers are still motivated by the Essenes' knowledge, which offers a unique window into how ancient people perceived God's purpose for the world. Many people doubt the Essenes' idea that human history was divided into ages, each ruled by different spiritual forces. They see it as nothing more than ancient superstition. But what if they were closer to the truth than we think? Recent studies of the Dead Sea Scrolls hint that the Essenes may have understood deeper cycles of moral and spiritual change long before modern historians tried to explain them. If their classification of ages truly reflects patterns in human behavior and belief, then maybe their vision of history wasn't myth, it was wisdom. We're only beginning to understand how could these old scrolls endure over the ages, and what happened to them when they were found. Let's take a closer look. The Dead Sea Scrolls: ownership, categories, and scholarly insights. The story of the scrolls does not begin with their discovery. It begins with what happened afterward, with the people who first handled them, and with how they came to be studied by scholars around the world. After the scrolls were discovered in 1947, their significance was not immediately recognized. The people who first found them or came into contact with them did not fully understand how rare or important they were. Some even sold the scrolls for very little money, not realizing that these documents had been hidden and preserved for nearly 2,000 years. At one point, a cobbler who liked antiques purchased a few of the scrolls. Later, he sold them to a Syrian Orthodox archbishop for less than $100. Eventually, in 1954, an Israeli archaeologist named Yigael Yadin acquired 4 of these scrolls for $250,000. This story of early ownership and sale shows how the scrolls moved from simple curiosity items into highly valuable historical treasures. It also shows that the world did not immediately understand the importance of what had been discovered. The scrolls themselves are now carefully studied and organized into different groups. According to researchers from the Leon Levy Dead Sea Scrolls Digital Library, the scrolls fall into several main categories and subcategories. One major category is the biblical scrolls. These are copies or fragments of most books of the Old Testament. With the exception of Esther, these texts were written in their original languages, mostly Hebrew, and some were also translated into other languages that the community may have used, like Aramaic, and Greek scholars call them biblical scrolls. But the term is used carefully because, at the time, there was no formal Bible as we know it today. These texts were simply an unofficial collection of writings that were important to the community that preserved them. They offer historians and religious scholars a treasure trove of information. Another important group of scrolls is the sectarian writings. These are texts that belong to the Essenes, a Jewish religious and philosophical sect that lived near the Dead Sea. The Essenes were known for their strict discipline and commitment to religious study. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video shown on your screen to catch up on your favorite celebrity stories. See you there.